Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're going over some week 13 waiver wire. This is it. So if you're trying to make the playoffs, this is the final week, which, okay, there might actually be a player or two out here that can actually help you win a week and get you in the playoffs, but that's it. There's probably like one or two. And if you have any auction money left, if you have the number one thing, you can use it on one of these guys, which we'll get to in just a second. But before we do that, make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Profit or Instagram Fantasy Football Profit, or check out the website fantasyfootballprofit.com. Get your questions into us at any of those spots. We'll have a little mailbag episode here in a couple days, so get questions into us. We'll definitely answer as many as we can. So I'll say the top guy would probably be on the list. Probably would have been Gus Edwards, I would say, but he is now above our limit of 40%. We only list guys that are owned in 40% of leagues or less on ESPN. And I believe, Edwards is, can't remember what his percentage is now, but I think I'm pretty sure he
jumped to 53.7.
Is that what he's at? Okay.
In 1 week. So
yeah,
pretty good.
If he's out there, I'd pick him up. Would you pick? Okay, my second guy, here we go, is the other guy. This probably has to be Josh Adams,
right?
I would say. So, and these were our top guys last week, basically, anyway. But is it Edwards for you over Adams right now?
Yeah, it is for me right now. I think he's just going to get more bulk. I think that team has been looking for someone just to give all the carries to, and we said it last week, but I'll say it again. I think with that running quarterback, with Lamar Jackson in there, it just helps him out a ton. I think Josh Adams is a little more streaky, and I don't know if that team is going to completely just hand off the ball, because I haven't seen them actually pass it to him a whole lot. So I think Gus Edwards is a little safer.
Yeah, and I think as long as Lamar Jackson's the quarterback, which sounds like they might stick with him, even after Flacco comes back, Edwards is going to be good. In 2 weeks, he's done 17 for 115 and 23 for 118. That's those, and playing against Atlanta, then Kansas City, then Tampa. That is a very good schedule for him. And Gus Edwards is probably going to win some fantasy leagues. As crazy as that is, you at least get him to the championships. Gus Edwards, yeah, who would have thought this? A guy who had before week 11, he had a total of 15 carries on the season. Sometimes you just don't know, I guess.
Yep.
Okay, so Edwards would be our number one. So our number two is going to be Josh Adams, who isn't his own in as many leagues. He's got a lot of volume last week, but I think he's up there. I think he's above it too now. So they're both up there, right?
Yeah, actually,
I think he's owned higher than Edwards.
Yeah, he is actually. He's at 66.7.
Yeah.
So he jumped another 38.8. So he's been going up for the past 2 weeks. But yeah, so he's
if
definitely
he's out
owned.
there, you get one of these two guys. You get them, and yeah, pretty much it. Adams, 22 carries for 84 yards and touchdown. He's gonna get in volume. I don't know how good of a player he is. You think he's fine. But sometimes that doesn't matter. Sometimes it's all about opportunity and volume in these spots. So Adams and Edwards are the guys right now. So now that we broke our rule and talked about two guys for a bit that don't even belong on our list normally, who else is there?
Well, that's the difficult part, right? So this is the part where I don't think there's anyone that really excites me when I talk about running backs.
No, there's not.
I'll just rattle off a few. If you're looking for someone just to get you a few points, I think Frank Gore might be that guy. He'll give you 5 points no matter what. And Drake looked kind of banged up with that shoulder a little bit. So if he does get a few more carries, you never know with and other than that, the only other person I'm looking at is LeGarrette Blount, who
it has to be.
I don't trust, but at the same time, what he did last week, and he's only owned in 18.5% of leagues right now. So, those would be the two guys that I would be looking at. For me, there's not a whole lot. Elijah McGuire, I think, just, kind of ran out of time. I don't trust him, so I'm probably not going to put him on my team.
Yep. Not happening for him. But I think the way the Lions use LeGarrette Blount shows me a lot. I think that's what they're going to do. I don't necessarily agree with it. But he did fine, so there's nothing, I can't say anything against it. I just don't think he's that great of a player. But hey, he did pretty well. So what can I say?
Right.
And then I guess one player that could be interesting here, because we're recording this before we hear any news on Fournette. If Fournette was to be suspended for a game, which I don't think will happen, but hey, it's possible. Carlos Hyde's out there, and he's only owned in 38.8% of leagues now. So Hyde would be an interesting pickup for the week.
Yeah, very
do you think
good
it'd be
point.
him, or do you think it'd be Yeldon? I don't know how they'd use him.
I think they would use them both, but yeah, I think Yeldon would be the pass catcher. But yeah, that's a very, very good point. I didn't even think about that, to be honest. But yeah, that's a very good possibility that he does, because he definitely threw a haymaker at him, which I'll never understand players throwing punches when other guys have helmets on. But
yeah, it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Right? And okay, for running back wise, that's about it.
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah, unless you, really. Really, that is it. But
even in a desperate situation, I don't know what else you would do if you're in, if we're sticking to our 40%. Is it Theo Riddick just because he might catch a couple balls? That might be the next guy.
Yeah, he might be it. I guess. Oh my gosh, even Doug Martin's over 50%. Yeah, I guess so. That would be it.
So it is like a Frank Gore.
Yeah,
like you said, to start, Frank Gore, LeGarrette Blount, those are the guys you'd have to get. And it's not pretty at running back for those spots.
It's not.
But difference, if Adams and Edwards are out there, then it looks pretty good. Even Martin. You could have Adams, Edwards, and Martin out there in your league, and then that's a much different situation. So go pick those guys up.
Yeah. So in saying that, why don't we jump over to wide receiver, where maybe there's a few more that we can say.
Maybe.
And and once again, 40% is what we're aiming for. So even Traquan Smith, jumped up huge last week, so he's no longer on it. Is there anyone that sticks out to you in this group?
Probably Josh Reynolds. Probably played 2 weeks ago, 6 for 80 and touchdown. Had the bye week, so he's kind of been forgotten a little bit. Goes against Detroit, who it's not very good. And Josh Reynolds could be the guy. The problem is, too, 6 for 80 and touchdown looked pretty good, but that was in just the craziest, the biggest shootout we've ever seen in the NFL. So what will he do in a more normal game is, the question. But I think at the wide receiver for waivers this week, he's the guy to add.
Yeah.
He'd probably be number one.
I think he'll be fine. I don't expect him to always have this kind of production, but, with Cooper Kupp out, it just makes sense that they'll still try to use 3 wide receivers. So, I think he would be my number 1 as well.
And then I'll say another name here. We're recording this before the Monday night game, so Kiki Cutie, we don't know what he's going to do here, but he would probably be the next one.
Yeah,
because I'm expecting him to do something.
Right. And he's going against Tennessee, so even if he doesn't have a spectacular game, as long as he gets 50 yards, I'll feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, his game doesn't even have to be that great for me to put him on the list next week.
I just need him to get, 3 catches for 50 yards, anything that or above, and I'll say, he should be, picked up number 2.
And then, the next guy, I would actually probably say Adam Humphries, who he just continues to do something, He got a touchdown, 6 for 54. It's not like he's not getting huge catches, not getting a lot big yards, but he's scored 4 touchdowns in the last 4 games. He's kind of involved a little bit. So if you need a guy to plug in for the week, I don't know what your situation is, why you need to play Humphries, but if you need a guy, Humphries isn't terrible.
No, he really hasn't been. Double digits in 3 of the last 4. And even before that, he's really only had, 2 games where I would be upset, where there was a 3.7 against Cleveland and a 5.3 versus Washington. And that was after their bye, so week 6 on, he's been a viable option. Not the sexiest pick by any means, but yeah, he'll get you some points.
All right. Anybody else out there on your list?
You know what? No, I'm just going to list a few. I don't feel good about any of these guys. I wouldn't necessarily pick them up. But if you are looking for just a bottom of the kind of barrel kind of guy, Devontae Parker, Hasn't done anything, actually. I'd skip over him. But
yeah, definitely.
But and sadly enough, he hasn't done a lot. But John Ross, I almost
he gets another touchdown.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns in 3 games. He hasn't gotten over 3 catches, but if AJ is out for another week, he might be a guy that might be worth throwing in that last spot. But that says something too, right? And then I guess Mike Williams would be someone that you take a just complete guess at. But there's no one on here that blows my hair back.
Here's a guy that I think is actually interesting. It's Curtis Samuel, and so he doesn't get a lot of catches, but they use him in all kinds of ways. They run, runs, all this stuff. So here are his games for this. He started the year, he was hurt. He came back in week 5 and he got 9.7 in week. This is all standard. 9.7. He had nothing in week 6. I actually don't know his situation. I don't remember if he was out that game or not. But then he had 8.5 in week 7. Only got 2. He got 2.8. Didn't do anything in week 8. 17.8 week 9. He got negative 0.1 in week 10. But then 11.5 and 10.2. So he's had 5 solid games. 5 out of 7 that have been pretty good. So if you are in, a tough spot and you need somebody who's going to be involved, maybe it's Curtis Samuel. They are looking to get him the ball a little bit in just random way. But this is also can easily turn into a nothing game, though. You can get a 0 out of him. But I'm interested in it, and especially with he plays Tampa, then Cleveland, New Orleans, Atlanta. Like it's not a terrible schedule. So he's an interesting guy in a week where there's not much.
Yeah, yeah. There's no difference between him and he probably actually is a better version of the guys that I was talking about above. The amount of touches he gets does worry me, but the numbers don't lie, right? So would you rather put him in or Willie Snead? Yeah, you're right. I'd probably rather put Curtis Samuel in.
Well, and then I don't really have anybody else for this list here. D.D. Westbrook, I should bring up his name because I always think a lot of good things about D.D. Westbrook, but he's just, you can't trust him. So some guys, though, if you go a little bit above our level, if like DJ Moore is out there, go pick up DJ Moore over everyone. He's at 59.1%, so chances are he's not available in your league, but there is a possibility he is. 8 for 91 this past week, 7 for 157 the week before. So he's involved and he's finally showing his potential of being a first-round draft pick. So I'd go pick up DJ Moore over, pretty much everybody else. I think he's going to be good the rest of the year. Then, you got any tight ends?
Oh.
I got one. It's gonna be,
have to look.
I brought his name up before. Chris Herndon, 7 for 57 this past week. It's not huge, but hey, he's been a pretty decent option since about week 6. Where he's gone 11.6, 10.2, 7.6, 6.2. Then he had 3.4 and 5.7. But tight end position's been bad. And Herndon is interesting, at least. He's, someone to look out for.
Yeah.
That's about it, though.
The only other guy... yeah. I don't know what this is going to come out to. I think that, our Josh Reynolds pick could kind of nullify him, but every once in a while I'm interested in to see what Gerald Everett is going to be able to do with the Rams. Yeah. He's kind of all over the place, but the last 3 weeks in tight end land, he has been, relevant. So 6.8, 7.5, and then the big 2 touchdown, 17-point game against KC. He had the bye, so everyone completely forgot about him. But going against Detroit next week, if they continue to use him in that role, as far as tight end goes, he actually might be an okay play. So he would be another guy that I'm just kind of giving a second look to.
So then if we go, let's just go to some streaming QBs here to see what we got here. So if you're looking to stream quarterbacks, I'd go get Baker Mayfield because he's only 42% owned yet. I'd go get him and just make him your quarterback. At this point, I'd stop streaming. I like Baker. But I think Dak could be pretty decent against New Orleans. He had a solid week this past week. He said he's been okay, but Dak or Baker, which one do you want? Houston's been good against the pass. I still like Baker Mayfield, though. I think he can overcome that.
Yeah.
Or do you want Dak against New Orleans? or Lamar Jackson against Atlanta.
Ooh.
Lamar's guaranteed to get you 15.
Yeah, I think out of I have a hard time with Dak. I mean, that's where it comes down to. He impresses me, then he is lackluster. He does it. He's going against New Orleans, so you think that they're going to have to throw a lot. And with Amari Cooper, you're thinking maybe he'll get in the swing of things. I think Baker would be the way to go. I like Lamar Jackson, but Baker is just playing really, really well right now, and I feel like he can get 2 touchdowns and 300 yards, even though he is playing against a pretty good Houston team, like you said.
All right, how about some defenses here? So, got a couple options maybe. We have, Buffalo going against Miami's not a bad option. Buffalo's defense has been pretty solid. So, Buffalo against Miami could be an option. You got the Titans going against the Jets, another one that, might not be that bad. The Broncos are still they're owned in 39.7% of leagues. They've really stepped it up now these last couple weeks. It might not even look like it's that good, but if you look at it here. So in week 6, fantasy scoring wise, they got 6 points, which isn't a huge game, but they played against the Rams. Then they went nuts against Arizona, had 32. Then they got a 0, but it was at Kansas City.
They didn't go negative, right? So that's pretty good.
Yeah. Then Houston got 4, but Houston can be, it wasn't even like they didn't do extra. They only gave up 19 points. It wasn't bad. Then they played at the Chargers and scored a 6 for fantasy scoring. And then they played Pittsburgh and got 11. That's actually even better than you think about than it looks. If you really look at it, it's not that bad. It's been pretty solid, and they're still only owning 39% of leagues. And at this point, they were the 8th best defense ranked for fantasy scoring. So, going against Cincinnati, I feel really good about that one. So if they're out there, I'd be picking them up right now.
Yeah. I mean, they're just a good defense as well. So yeah, I think that's a very solid pick. I think one, and once again, it's a little bit above. I'm cheating a little bit. So they're owned in 43%, but they were on bye. So a lot of people dropped them. The Chiefs, they've been pretty solid, and they're about to go against Oakland, which should be a great matchup for them. But if you look at the stretch they've been on since week 7, it has been really amazing. I mean, 14-8, 6-10-8. So, and
it's crazy thing is they gave up 42 points and still scored 8 scoring.
Right. Against that crazy Rams game. So, and now you're about to go against Oakland, who is just completely falling apart. And then you go against Baltimore the week after that, if you're looking down the road, which, shouldn't scare you that much. So once again, they've been a top 10 defense all year pretty much. So if they're out there, if someone dropped them because they were on a bye, which a lot of people do, it's the defense, I would snag them. I think that would be the play. Other than that, do you have anyone besides the Broncos or Chiefs a little farther down perhaps that might just have a good matchup?
Dolphins yet against Buffalo. It's still, Buffalo did well, but it's still Buffalo. Josh Allen could go throw some picks at any time. And Miami's defense has not been bad this year. They've been solid too. So they were the 9th best coming into last week. So there's solid defense. So that's still not a bad option, Miami against Buffalo. You could do worse than that. Or if none of those other options we talked about are there, yeah, and Dolphins are available, I'd go pick them up and just hope Josh Allen goes and throws 3 picks, which it's going to happen at some point.
Right.
It just probably will. So, but yeah, that's probably it. That's about all I got for waivers. It's kind of a thin week, but hey, if you can get Gus Edwards, Josh Adams, a couple of those kind of guys, you can change your season around if they're still available in yours.
What do you think about the only other team that I see down here that has had pretty hot of late, but they can go north or south are the Saints, and they're about to go at Dallas. What do you think about that? Because the last 3 games, 9, 13, 15, which is not nothing. They did go -5 before that. So
I think Dallas is playing well right now. Something about Dallas. Maybe it's just because I think Zeke could just run the ball well, but it's not a terrible pick.
Yeah,
not at all. It's very solid. Just something about at Dallas, but yeah, it could definitely go their way.
Yeah,
because Dallas can go either way.
Right, exactly. And that's where, and it's funny, I would take the other ones we talked about, Broncos and Chiefs. I think they're safer. But, if people look at the numbers, I think the Saints are going to look like a great, matchup because they've been doing so well. But something about it, for me as well, kind of says, pump the brakes. But, if they keep going, I'll eat my words.
But, all right. So that'll be it. That's it for that's the final waiver wire of the regular season. Crazy.
That is weird.
So hopefully everything works out and you're all in the playoffs after this week. So I know Jeff will have some playoff matchups coming up in some different leagues. So
yeah,
be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, we're hoping. We got one more week. It looks like playoff bound in 3 of my 4.
Not bad.
Yeah,
not bad.
We'll find out.
But all right, that'll do it for today. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.